Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the observation deck's reinforced viewport, watching the alien sun cast its amber light across their new world. After 112 years of journey through the void, the Generation ship Prometheus had finally reached Alpha Centauri B's habitable planet. The moment felt surreal, almost impossible to grasp. Behind her, the celebration continued in full swing. 3,000 colonists filled the ship's central habitat ring, their voices echoing through corridors that had known only the hum of recyclers and the whisper of artificial atmosphere for over a century. Children who had never seen a real sky pressed their faces against viewports, eyes wide with wonder. Their grandparents, the last survivors of Earth's original passengers, wept openly. "Captain, we're ready for the broadcast," announced Communications Officer David Chun, his voice cutting through the joyful chaos. At 28, Chun represented the ship's fourth generation, born among the stars like most of the current crew. His great-grandmother had been among the original volunteers who left Earth in 2157. Elena nodded, straightening her uniform. The broadcast would travel for over 4 years before reaching Earth, but would be humanity's first message from another star system. History compressed into electromagnetic waves, carrying their triumph across the cosmic dark. "All stations, prepare for transmission," Elena announced over the ship's communication system. The celebration gradually quieted as families gathered around screens throughout the habitat ring. They had rehearsed this moment in simulations, but nothing could prepare them for the emotional weight of actually being here. Chin activated the primary communication array, its massive dishes extending from the ship's hull like metallic flowers blooming in space. The Prometheus had been humanity's greatest achievement when it launched, a self-contained world capable of sustaining life across interstellar distances. Now it hung in orbit around their new home, its mission nearly complete. Elena took a deep breath and began speaking into the recording system. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Generation ship Prometheus, broadcasting from the Alpha Centauri system on colonial date 112.7.15. I am proud to report that humanity has successfully established presence in another star system." She paused, looking out at the planet below. They had named it Haven, though the original indigenous designation remained unknown. Preliminary scans showed breathable atmosphere, vast oceans, and continents rich with resources. It seemed almost too perfect, as if the universe had prepared this world specifically for their arrival. "Our surveys confirm that Haven is suitable for human habitation. The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen with trace gases that pose no immediate threat. Surface gravity measures 0.9 Earth normal. We have identified multiple potential colony sites near fresh water sources and mineral deposits." The colonists watched with rapt attention as their captain spoke. Many held hands, forming chains of connection that stretched throughout the ship. This was their moment of triumph, the culmination of generations of sacrifice and hope. "To our families on Earth, we carry your dreams with us. To those who will follow, we promise to prepare the way. Humanity is no longer bound to a single world. We are citizens of the galaxy now." Elena smiled, feeling the weight of history settling on her shoulders. "We begin orbital surveys tomorrow, with the first landing party scheduled for next week. The advanced terraforming equipment will establish our initial settlement near the northern continent's largest river delta. By the time this message reaches Earth, we expect to have a thriving colony of several hundred permanent residents." The communication array hummed with power as the message compressed into a tight beam aimed at Seoul. 4.5 light years separated them from home, but in this moment, Elena felt connected to every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. "This is humanity's first message from the stars," she concluded. "We have not forgotten who we are or where we came from. We carry Earth with us in our hearts, and we will honor that trust by building something worthy of the journey." Captain Vasquez signing off. The recording ended, and spontaneous applause erupted throughout the ship. People embraced, laughed, and cried together. They had done it. After more than a century of travel, after losing contact with Earth decades ago when their transmission equipment degraded, they had finally arrived at humanity's first interstellar colony. Chin initiated the broadcast sequence, and the message began its long journey home. The celebration continued late into the ship's artificial night cycle, with impromptu concerts and poetry readings filling the corridors. Children drew pictures of their new world, while adults shared stories passed down through generations about Earth's blue skies and green forests. Elena remained on the observation deck long after the festivities moved to other sections of the ship. She watched Haven rotate slowly beneath them, its continents drifting past in stately procession. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as they prepared for humanity's first steps on an alien world. But tonight belonged to celebration. The stars had never seemed so welcoming. The first sign of trouble came during the morning briefing cycle, 18 hours after the broadcast. Elena sat in the command center reviewing atmospheric data when Lieutenant Sarah Kim rushed in, her face pale with concern. "Captain, you need to see this immediately," Kim said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. She activated the main display screen, showing a three-dimensional representation of local space around Haven. Elena studied the hologram, noting the familiar positions of Alpha Centauri A and B, along with their smaller red dwarf companion. Everything appeared normal until Kim highlighted a series of energy signatures emerging from the planet's surface. "These readings started appearing about 6 hours ago," Kim explained, her hands dancing over the control interface. "At first, we thought it was atmospheric interference or maybe some kind of natural electromagnetic phenomenon. The energy signatures pulsed in complex patterns, creating geometric formations that definitely didn't look natural." Elena felt her stomach tighten as she realized what she was seeing. "This is artificial," she said quietly. "Something on the planet is responding to our presence." Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's chief scientist, joined them at the display. At 73, he was one of the oldest people aboard the Prometheus, his expertise in xenobiology making him invaluable for their mission. He studied the patterns with growing alarm. "The energy output is increasing exponentially," Webb noted, pointing to the data streams. "Whatever's generating these signals, it's becoming more active. The pattern suggests some kind of communication protocol or activation sequence." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The preliminary surveys had shown no signs of intelligent life on Haven. They had detected ruins of what might have been ancient structures, but everything suggested a long-dead civilization. Apparently, they had been wrong. "Could this be some kind of automated defense system?" she asked. Webb shook his head grimly. "The complexity suggests active intelligence. These patterns are too sophisticated for simple automation. Something down there is thinking, and it knows we're here." The command center fell silent, except for the steady hum of the ship's systems. Elena stared at the display, watching the energy signatures grow stronger and more complex. Their moment of triumph was rapidly transforming into something far more dangerous. "Captain," Chen called from his communication station, "I'm detecting massive power buildups across multiple continental sites. The energy readings are off our instrument scale." Elena moved to the station, her mind racing through their options. The Prometheus carried defensive systems designed to protect against space debris and cosmic radiation, but nothing capable of defending against a planetary-scale threat. They were explorers, not conquerors. "Can we determine the source locations?" she asked. Chen's fingers flew over his controls, correlating the energy signatures with their surface mapping data. "The strongest signals are coming from what we identified as geological formations, mountain ranges, deep valleys, places where we thought we saw natural rock formations." "Not natural," Webb muttered, studying the data. "Camouflage. This entire planet might be one massive construct, designed to appear uninhabited until activated." Elena felt the weight of command pressing down on her. 3,000 lives depended on her decisions, and she was facing a situation completely beyond their mission parameters. The Generation ship had been designed for colonization, not first contact with an active alien intelligence. "Options?" she asked, looking around the command center. "We could retreat to a safe distance and attempt communication," suggested Kim. "Try to establish peaceful contact. Or we could evacuate immediately," Chen added grimly, "return to cold sleep and attempt a journey to another system." Elena shook her head. "We don't have the resources for another interstellar journey. The fusion reactors are operating at minimum efficiency, and our consumables are nearly exhausted. This was always intended to be a one-way trip. The truth hung heavy in the recycled air. The Prometheus had been designed to deliver its passengers to Alpha Centauri, not to explore multiple systems. They had gambled everything on Haven being suitable for human habitation, and now they were discovering that the planet might already be occupied. "Captain," Webb said quietly, "there's something else. I've been analyzing the energy patterns, and some of them match theoretical frameworks for faster-than-light communication. If this intelligence has that capability, they might already be in contact with others of their kind." Elena felt her blood run cold. If Haven's inhabitants could communicate instantly across interstellar distances, then their arrival might have already triggered a response from across the galaxy. Humanity's first steps into the cosmic community might have just painted a target on their entire species. "All senior staff, emergency briefing in conference room A," she announced over the ship's communication system. "Security condition yellow. All department heads prepare contingency reports." As the command staff dispersed to gather their teams, Elena remained staring at the display screen. The energy signatures continued growing stronger, creating patterns that seemed almost beautiful in their complexity. But beauty, she had learned, could be the most dangerous trap of all. The celebration of just 18 hours ago felt like a lifetime away. Humanity had reached for the stars and found them already occupied. The question now was whether they would be welcomed as neighbors or eliminated as threats. Outside the viewport, Haven continued its peaceful rotation, its surface betraying no hint of the massive forces awakening beneath its seemingly pristine continents. The planet that had promised to be humanity's new Eden might instead become their tomb. The emergency briefing convened within an hour, bringing together every department head aboard the Prometheus. Elena looked around the conference table at faces that reflected her own growing concern. These people represented the best of human expertise, but they were facing a situation none of them had anticipated. Dr. Webb activated the room's holographic display, showing the latest sensor readings. The energy signatures from Haven had intensified dramatically, creating a complex web of interconnected patterns across the planet's surface. "The power levels are now beyond anything in our databases," Webb began, his voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. "Whatever technology is activating down there operates on principles we don't understand. The energy output suggests the ability to manipulate matter at the atomic level across planetary distances." Security Chief Maria Santos leaned forward, studying the display. At 45, she represented the ship's third generation, trained from childhood in protecting the colony during their journey and after arrival. Her great-grandfather had been a military advisor during the mission's planning phase. "Threat assessment?" Elena asked. "Unknown, but potentially catastrophic," Santos replied grimly. "If they possess this level of technology, our defensive capabilities are essentially worthless. We're dealing with a civilization that could dismantle our ship at the molecular level if they chose to." Chief Engineer Robert Park spoke up from his position near the display controls. "The good news is that our presence doesn't seem to have triggered immediate hostility. The energy patterns appear to be some kind of scanning or analysis process, not weapon charging." "How can you tell?" Elena asked. Park manipulated the display to show energy flow patterns. "The signatures are directed outward from the planet, not focused on our position. It's as if they're broadcasting rather than targeting. Whatever they're doing, we're not the primary focus." Dr. Lisa Chun, the ship's senior xenobiologist and David's aunt, studied the patterns with professional fascination. "The complexity suggests we're dealing with a collective intelligence rather than individual entities. The coordination required for these planetary-scale operations implies a level of unity that would be impossible for separate beings to achieve." Elena felt a chill at the implications. A collective intelligence with planetary-scale technology could view individual humans as little more than bacteria. Their hopes for peaceful coexistence might be completely irrelevant to beings who thought and acted on such a vast scale. "Communication attempts?" she asked. David Chin looked up from his portable interface. "I've been trying multiple protocols, everything from mathematical sequences to artistic patterns. No response so far, but the scanning intensified when I began broadcasting." They're aware of our attempts, Webb noted. The energy patterns show microfluctuations that correlate with our transmission times. They're analyzing everything we send. Elena stood and walked to the viewport overlooking Haven. The planet looked peaceful in the amber light of Alpha Centauri b, its blue oceans and brown continents, showing no sign of the massive forces stirring beneath its surface. It was hard to believe that this serene world might harbor intelligence vast beyond human comprehension. Captain, Dr. Lisa Chin said quietly, there's something else we need to consider. The archaeological data from our initial scans showed ruins dating back millions of years. If this intelligence has been dormant that long, our arrival might have been the trigger that awakened them. The conference room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's first interstellar journey might have disturbed something that had been sleeping since before their species evolved. The responsibility was staggering. Options? Elena asked, turning back to face her senior staff. We could attempt a formal first contact protocol, suggested Dr. Lisa Chun. Establish our peaceful intentions and request permission to establish a colony in an uninhabited region of the planet, assuming they recognize individual consciousness, Santos countered. A collective intelligence might not understand the concept of individual rights or territorial negotiations. Engineer Park brought up a new display showing the ship's current status. From a purely practical standpoint, we need to make a decision within the next 72 hours. Our orbital position is decaying, and we'll need to either land or boost to a higher orbit. The fuel requirements for leaving the system are beyond our current capabilities. Elena studied the faces around the table, seeing her own fears reflected in their expressions. They had traveled over a century to reach this moment, and now they faced the possibility that their new home was already occupied by beings who could eliminate them without effort. Dr. Webb, what's your assessment of their intentions? She asked. The elderly scientist considered the question carefully. The fact that we're still alive suggests either benevolence or indifference. If they viewed us as a threat, I believe we would already be dead. The scanning patterns suggest curiosity rather than hostility. Or they could be studying us before deciding whether we're worth preserving, Santos added grimly. Elena made her decision. We proceed with caution but maintain our mission objectives. Dr. Chun, prepare a comprehensive first contact package. Include our history, our intentions, and our willingness to coexist peacefully. Engineer Park, prepare landing protocols for a reduced initial party. If we're going to make contact, it should be on their world, not from orbit. The meeting dispersed with everyone understanding the magnitude of their situation. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence would happen within days, whether they were ready or not. The outcome would determine not just the fate of the Prometheus and its passengers, but potentially the future relationship between humanity and the galaxy's existing civilizations. As the senior staff filed out, Elena remained at the viewport, watching their new world turn slowly beneath them. Somewhere on that planet, an ancient intelligence was stirring to full wakefulness, analyzing the small ship that had dared to cross the void between stars. The next few days would determine whether humanity had found new friends or had just announced their presence to forces beyond their understanding. The change began at dawn of the ship's third day in orbit. Elena was reviewing first contact protocols when alarms throughout the Prometheus began sounding simultaneously. She rushed to the command center to find her crew staring in stunned silence at the main display. Haven was glowing, not the gentle reflected light of its sun, but an inner radiance that pulsed from deep within the planet's crust. Geometric patterns of brilliant white light traced across continents like neural pathways in a vast brain. The energy readings were beyond anything their instruments could measure. Captain, Davidson said, his voice barely above a whisper, they're broadcasting. The signal is incredibly powerful, directed toward multiple star systems simultaneously. Elena felt her heart racing as she studied the display. Can you decode any of it? It's not meant for us, Dr. Webb said, appearing beside them with Dr. Lisa Chun. Both scientists looked exhausted from analyzing the alien transmissions. The signal structure suggests communication between peers, not a message to primitives. They're talking to other civilizations. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic community, that had existed for millennia without their knowledge. Their arrival had triggered something much larger than first contact with a single species. "How many recipients?" she asked. Chun worked frantically at his station. "At least 17 distinct target vectors. The signals are reaching star systems across a radius of several hundred light years. Captain, we're looking at a communications network that spans a significant portion of this galactic arm." Dr. Lisa Chin pointed to new readings appearing on the display. "The response signals are already arriving. Faster-than-light communication confirmed. Some of these civilizations are answering in real time across distances that should require decades for signal travel." Elena gripped the command chair as the full scope of their situation became clear. Humanity had been completely isolated, developing in ignorance while advanced civilizations maintained regular contact across the galaxy. Their arrival had announced Earth's location to beings whose capabilities they couldn't begin to comprehend. Security Chief Santos to the command center immediately. Elena announced over the ship's communication system. Within minutes, Santos arrived with her security team. She took one look at the display, and her expression hardened. "Threat assessment has just escalated to critical. We're no longer dealing with one unknown civilization. This is a first contact scenario with multiple advanced species simultaneously." "Captain," Dr. Webb said urgently, "the energy patterns are changing. Something new is happening." The display showed the light patterns across Haven intensifying, but now they were forming into recognizable shapes. Geometric forms that hurt to look at directly, as if they contained more dimensions than human vision could process. The patterns pulsed in rhythm with signals arriving from distant star systems. "They're coordinating," Elena realized. "Whatever decision they're making about us, they're making it together." Suddenly, the ship's communication system crackled to life with sound unlike anything they had ever heard. It wasn't quite speech, but it carried meaning that bypassed language and went directly to their consciousness. Every person aboard the Prometheus heard it simultaneously, understanding it despite its alien nature. "Small ones from the distant sun. You carry the mark of youth and the scent of ignorance. Your arrival disturbs patterns established before your star was born." Elena found her voice, though speaking such a vast intelligence seemed almost absurd. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel Prometheus. We come in peace, seeking a new home for our species." Peace. The concept seemed to amuse the collective intelligence. You speak of peace while your thoughts scream of fear and desperation. Your species flees a dying world, carrying the seeds of the same destruction that consumed your birthplace. The accuracy of the statement stunned Elena. Earth's environmental collapse had indeed driven humanity to the stars, and their technology still carried the potential for similar disasters. "We have observed your kind through long ages. You spread like infection, consuming resources until worlds can no longer sustain you. Your arrival here was predicted by the architects millennia ago." "Architects?" Elena asked, but the entity continued without acknowledging her question. "The Council of Eternal Minds convenes. Your fate will be decided by beings whose thoughts span eons while yours flutter like brief flames. Some argue for preservation, others for elimination. A few suggest experimentation." The word experimentation sent chills throughout the command center. Elena realized they were discussing humanity as if they were specimens rather than people. "We're not asking for charity," Elena said firmly. "We're willing to prove ourselves, to contribute to whatever galactic community exists. We have knowledge, creativity, perspectives that might be valuable." "Creativity?" Again, that sense of amusement. "You assume your thoughts are unique, yet we have absorbed the consciousness of 10,000 species across 1,000,000 years. What novelty could brief-lived primitives offer to minds that have contemplated existence since your planet was molten rock?" Dr. Webb stepped forward, his scientific mind engaging despite their desperate situation. "Our brief existence might be exactly what you're missing. Perspective from lives that burn bright and fast, rather than the long, slow thoughts of immortal beings." The alien presence paused, and Elena felt a shift in its attention. For a moment, she sensed vast minds turning their focus toward the small human ship, evaluating Webb's words. "Intriguing. The old one speaks with wisdom despite his primitive origins. Perhaps there is merit in preserving a specimen population for study. Elena's blood ran cold. We're not specimens. We're living beings with the right to determine our own fate. Rights. The concept seemed to genuinely puzzle the entity. You speak of rights as if consciousness grants authority over existence. Yet you are children playing with forces that could unmake solar systems. Your rights exist only because we permit them. The light patterns across Haven began forming new configurations, more complex than anything they had seen before. Elena realized they were witnessing history being made, decisions that would affect not just humanity, but their entire region of the galaxy. The ancient intelligence spoke once more. The Council deliberates. Your small vessel will remain in orbit, while greater minds than yours decide your species' future. Do not attempt to flee. The void between stars offers no sanctuary from those who shaped it. The communication ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Outside the viewports, Haven continued to pulse with alien light, while across the galaxy, immortal beings debated humanity's right to exist. Hours stretched into an eternity as the crew of the Prometheus waited for their fate to be decided by minds they couldn't comprehend. The alien communication had left everyone aboard in a state of shock, knowing that beings across the galaxy were discussing their species, as if they were insects to be preserved or exterminated. Elena paced the command center, unable to rest while their future hung in the balance. The light patterns on Haven had grown increasingly complex, forming configurations that seemed to twist space itself around the planet. Dr. Webb had stopped trying to analyze them after his instruments began showing readings that violated known physics. Captain, Davidson called out suddenly, I'm detecting massive energy buildups across multiple star systems. The communication network is reaching activity levels that are off all scales. Elena rushed to a station, studying the incoming data. Signals were arriving from across their local galactic region, each carrying more power than humanity's entire civilization could generate in a lifetime. The Council is reaching a decision, Dr. Webb said grimly. He looked older than his 73 years, the stress of their situation aging him visibly. Whatever they're planning, it will affect far more than just our small ship. Security Chief Santos approached with her latest threat assessment. Captain, I've been running scenarios on our options if they decide against us. The truth is, we don't have any. Our weapons couldn't scratch their technology, and running would only delay the inevitable. Elena nodded, having reached the same conclusion hours ago. Their survival depended entirely on convincing beings who viewed them as primitive insects that humanity deserved to exist. Suddenly, the ship's communication system activated again, but this time the voice was different. Still alien, but somehow warmer, more individual than the collective consciousness they had heard before. Humans of the vessel Prometheus. I am what you might call an advocate, though the concept translates poorly to your limited language. I speak for those who argue for your preservation. Elena felt a spark of hope. Thank you for speaking for us. We're grateful for any consideration. Do not thank me yet. The Council of Eternal Minds has deliberated for subjective millennia while moments passed in your time frame. The debate reveals deep divisions among the architects regarding your species' potential. The entity paused, and Elena sensed vast thoughts organizing themselves into concepts humans could grasp. Some among us remember our own beginnings, when we too were young and desperate, seeking new worlds while fleeing the consequences of our ignorance. They argue for mercy, for the chance to guide your species toward wisdom before you destroy yourselves and others. And the others? Elena asked, though she dreaded the answer. Others have seen too many promising species corrupt themselves with power, spreading destruction across multiple worlds before finally being stopped. They believe early elimination prevents greater suffering later. They point to your own homeworld as evidence of your species' inherent destructiveness. Elena felt the weight of Earth's environmental collapse pressing down on her. Humanity had indeed failed their first world, but they had learned from that failure. The generation ship itself represented their commitment to doing better. There is a third faction, the entity continued. They propose a different solution. A test, if you will. Your species will be allowed to colonize this world, but under observation and guidance. Failure would result in immediate termination. Success might earn you a place in the galactic community. What kind of tests? Elena asked. Survival. Not just biological survival, but the preservation of your essential humanity, while adapting to knowledge that would shatter most primitive civilizations. You would learn that you are not alone, not special, not the center of creation. Yet you must retain what makes you uniquely human, or you'll become merely another extinct species in our vast archives. Elena looked around the command center at her crew, seeing determination replacing fear in their faces. They had already survived over a century in space, adapting to challenges their ancestors could never have imagined. We accept, she said without hesitation. You speak for your ship, but can you speak for your species? The test will apply to all humanity, not just your small group. The knowledge of our existence will eventually reach your homeworld, and how they respond will determine the fate of both your populations. The implication struck Elena like a thunderbolt. Their arrival at Alpha Centauri had put not just the colonists at risk, but everyone on Earth as well. The test would span light years and potentially generations. The Council has voted. The experiment will proceed. Your people will be allowed to establish their colony on the world you call Haven. But know this, we will be watching. Every decision, every choice, every moment of growth or aggression will be noted. Prove that intelligence can coexist with wisdom, that technology can serve life rather than destroy it. The alien presence seemed to intensify, and Elena felt the full weight of galactic attention focusing on their small ship. One final gift, or perhaps curse. Your communication equipment will be enhanced to maintain contact with Earth. The knowledge of our existence will reach your homeworld within years rather than decades. How humanity responds to learning they are not alone will determine whether your species joins a galactic community or joins the archives of the extinct. The communication ended, but the light patterns on Haven began forming new configurations, geometric shapes that somehow conveyed welcome rather than threat, though they remained alien beyond human comprehension. Elena activated the ship's communication system to address all 3,000 colonists. Attention, all residents of the Prometheus. We have made contact with galactic civilization, and we have been granted permission to establish our colony. But our survival depends on proving that humanity can grow beyond our current limitations while remaining true to our essential nature. She paused, looking out at Haven where their new lives unfold under the watchful eyes of beings older than their solar system. We are no longer alone in the universe. The question now is whether we're worthy of the company we found. Our actions here will determine not just our own fate, but the future of everyone we left behind on Earth. The Prometheus began its descent toward Haven's surface, carrying humanity into a larger universe where their survival depended on becoming better than they had ever been before. Behind them, across the galaxy, ancient minds watched and waited to see if another young species would find wisdom before it was too late. The sky above Haven continued to pulse with alien light, a constant reminder that humanity's greatest test was just beginning.